Hey, we're back. We're looking at Adobe. This is another one of our value stocks. Right now we have the 1 month chart on the screen in the middle here. That's roughly the last time we looked at them. At least on my spreadsheet, it looks like what I have marked out is the current price was 344. So right now it's at 382. So it has gone up quite a bit since the last time we checked on March 3rd. I also had a buy point of 324 and a resistance or sell point of 442. So we'll kind of look into the technical analysis towards the end, but let's just kind of go through some of the news. There were a fair amount of headlines that came from Adobe, starting with the earliest, so closer to that March 3rd date. They opened a new office right in their home stomping grounds of San Jose, California. And it looks like it's a big building, 18 stories. The software tower has capacity of 3,000 employee workstations. So I imagine they're just moving into this that has maybe an expanded uh, office setting. And this kind of goes along with the second piece of that headline where the company's pledging to have no layoffs in 2023. So we'll see how that plays out. There are some big headlines that are to come. So we'll see how this plays out. Probably the biggest piece of news from this company is their Q1 financials were released for 2023, and it seemed to be pretty good overall. In this first quarter, they had $4.6 billion in revenue, which was a 9% year over year growth. And for a per share basis, at least for GAAP, on a GAAP basis per share, they had $2.71. So pretty good, profitable clearly. If we look ahead, they did give us some insights of what they're thinking for the second quarter right here in blue. So revenue, they're thinking about 4.75 billion in Q2. So that is a little bit of growth from the 4.6. Not much. Quarter over quarter, that would be about 2% growth, which of course that's better than no growth or negative growth. And for the year right here up top, it doesn't go into how much revenue they're projecting, which is kind of interesting. I thought they would share that, but at least on a GAAP basis, they're projecting, if we just split it down the middle, $11 on a GAAP basis per share. And if we go back up to the top, 2.71, that's about even. So it looks like they're thinking they're just going to be fairly flat in terms of what they bring the shareholder on a quarterly basis. I'm sure it'll fluctuate to some degree as earnings are released, but that's kind of what they're projecting. That what they did this quarter, they think that's going to carry out for the rest of the year. If we move on to the next topic, so this is still in relation to their quarterly earnings, and this is by Motley Fool. They're saying that those earnings weren't as great as we might think, and it's mainly because they're saying the earnings were better than expected, and it was helped by the fact that Adobe bought back 5 million shares in that quarter. So because there's less shares, that means the the earnings per share on the GAAP basis or non-GAAP basis, that was elevated up because of that buyback, which, I mean, that's okay. I mean, companies do that all the time. Uh, so we'll see if there's buybacks in the future. I didn't see any notices of that, but I'm sure there's companies like this always have buybacks. So a lot of people think that uh, that's a good thing, in all honesty, because they feel like the company is at a low value, and that's why they're buying back their stock because they believe in their product and uh, they want to help the price go up to what they think it's worth. So I think this is mixed reviews on this one, but I understand their point where they think that's why their earnings per share kind of got bumped up a little more than uh, expected just because of that buyback. The next thing we have is, so this is big news. Adobe is launching a couple AI type tools, one of which is Firefly. Firefly, they go into a little bit of detail of what is going to be involved in it. It's a variety of things. I'm just looking for the one paragraph that kind of goes into it. Um, where did I see that? Maybe it was a different article, but I could have swore like it goes into it's going to touch on. Oh, here it is. So the company said Firefly will allow content creators to use their own words to generate images, audio, illustrations, videos, and 3D images. So they're really going after this AI thing, and that was one of our uh, buzzwords in the semiconductor industry. It looks like that is now finally flowing into other technology markets, Adobe being one of them. So, very interested to see how that evolves over the coming months, if not years. They also have another one. This one is more specifically targeting 3D models, and they're calling it Project Sunrise. Uh, Based on what I can tell, this one is really just focused on 3D models such as products and I imagine like home sales, based on the fact that they're talking about kitchen and furniture, um, really just marketing in general. So again, we'll see how this one kind of plays out. And I'm not sure if it's the same, but it seems like it would be similar with this next one. This is called Sensei Gen AI. So this article kind of goes into really just Sensei Gen AI, which is leveraging multiple large language models. The way they describe it, that does sound different than Project Sunrise, but the fact that they're talking about, maybe I'm just kind of looking at the models word, but so Project Sunshine, that sounds like 3D models, which kind of touches on Firefly, right here, Firefly, but Gen A or Sensei, I guess that really just means they want to try to incorporate all their different Adobe platforms and try to make it a very cohesive unit. So I imagine that's what Sensei is, and then Project Sunshine, that sounds like it's just the 3D model aspect. So I imagine that Project Sunshine, that's probably going to get rolled into Firefly because Firefly seems to be the very broad umbrella term for images, 3D models, uh, illustrations, like you name it. That is Firefly. So exciting things to come for this. They just announced this recently at their Adobe Summit on March 21st. So we'll see how this plays out. But wouldn't you know, it's our old friend here. Adobe is teaming up with NVIDIA because they need chips to help, probably not just chips, but NVIDIA is a big contributor in the AI market. So it does make sense. Adobe's going to team up with NVIDIA on this. Uh, in my opinion, there really was only three competitors. The article doesn't go into it, but anytime it comes to something like AI, I mean, NVIDIA is number one. Probably AMD or Intel is in the mix there, and that's probably the order that I'd put them in: is NVIDIA, AMD, Intel, just because those are the three biggest, and that seems to be their uh, technological uh, foresight at the moment. NVIDIA clearly they have the drive for it, well in front of the competition. AMD is working on catching up, and Intel's really trying to catch up. So that's kind of the basis. So it makes sense that Adobe would go with the top contributor in NVIDIA. Um, doesn't really go into much about it. It's really just a broad stroke of these AI projects that Adobe's coming up with. They're going to key in on NVIDIA to help them, and I think that's a great partnership. And I'm sure once we get into NVIDIA, we're going to touch on this again, and we'll see how it grows. But now onto the technical analysis. So again, I mentioned it earlier. The touch points that I had marked for this was, at the time it was at 344, and that seems to be this bar right here. So it looks like I probably did it over the weekend because this one bar is on a per week basis. All the bars are on a per week basis, and that week was over on 3.3, so I must have done this on that Friday, and the market closed at 344 roughly, and I had a buy point of 324, and so it looks like it came very close. I really should start to implement like alerts so that when it comes close to my buy points, I'm like triggered, because this is the second stock in like 2 days where it came very close, if not touch my buy point, and I just missed it because I don't have time to monitor these on a daily, even a weekly basis. But I'm working on updating the speed of my cycles here. But right now we're on kind of like a monthly basis, as you can tell. And so implementing some alerts here would probably help me and anyone who doesn't currently do that. So if we just update my charts, and then we'll get into what I want to update on the technical part. But right now it's at 382. The buy point, I'll keep it at 324 for now. That may change, and the sell point at 442, that also may change. So let's, in terms of this, again, this is where we saw it. It did come very close to our buy point at 324. It looks like it came to about 330. So that's close enough in my opinion. Like I would have bought in, maybe just a share or two. Overall, I'm still happy with the lines. I think it's safe to say we are kind of seeing a upward trend here. We are seeing higher lows, and so I'm just drawing this out a few weeks, if not a few months in advance, just to see how this actually tracks. And I'm going to draw a second one in here just to see, and I'm trying to make it fairly parallel. That seems to be the upward mark. So if it continues down this trend, it looks like 324 kind of is out of the question at this point. Right now, it does seem to be bouncing between our buy point and our fair value point. We'll see how it closes for the week and the week in advance. Because, yeah, we've touched the 382 mark once in the past, but it got rejected. And now here we are. It came above that mark, but you can see it's pulling back again. So we'll see how this week ends. And yeah, when we circle back, we'll have a better understanding of this one. For this week and probably like the next week, my buy point that I would probably mark out is about 3. I think just to play it safe would be like 340. I think 340 is in the realm of possibilities. So I'm still going to keep that 324 figure in there, but I'm going to add 340 because, again, I do think this upward trend is going to be staying with us for a while. It seems like a lot of stocks that we've been following are coming in with this upward trend, and then if we zoom back out, there's a lot of room for this one to grow. So no need to be ashamed if we were to step in here at this fair value, because there's a lot more room to grow for this one and many others, to be honest. But this one, for now, it is at a fair value. I wouldn't be ashamed of buying it. Personally, I think it's likely to come back again and at least test this purple line. We'll see if that hits or, stays reliable for us. But yeah, if I can figure it out, I'm going to set up an alert for this to about 340. And if it touches that and I get that notification, that'll be a trigger for me that, hey, we can buy this one. And again, this would be one that's, I'm not expecting like huge growth in it, but again, it's a value stock. I think putting money in here would be safe. I wouldn't be, I'm not looking for high growth in these, otherwise it would be in the growth type stock, but I feel like my money would be safe there. So if I put in, say, $400 today into this one, which would just be about one share, I would feel safe that if I just didn't even look at this a year later, I'm probably going to come back and see I have about $400 in there. Hopefully more, especially if this upward trend continues, but that's the whole point here. I want to see small incremental growth, and I'm okay with that. I want a portion of my portfolio to have stocks like that to, just be safe with, I suppose. Um, so I'm going to, you can see what we added in here, and I'll just remove this color just because there's no need for it. At one point it was close to a buy point. Ultimately we did end up missing it in a slight, oh, I want caps, in a slight uptrend for past, how long is that? About, we'll just say 6 months, for past 6 months. And you can see all the other value stocks that I have in here. But right now, yeah, that's the update for Adobe. Currently they're at 382. I'm gonna be patient on this one, see if it can pull back to 340. 324 would be great, but 340 would be okay. And then it's a far way away, but 442 seems like we might run into some resistance there. And then we are seeing a slight uptrend for the past 6 months. So that's it for this one. Please like, subscribe, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments, and I'll see you on the next one.